The clock hands meet at the ceiling peak. Silver blooms curling through the heavy heat. Ash falls slow, like gray northern snow. Watching the shadows drift and the hours go. Found a pocket of peace in a jagged day. Letting the thick clouds wash the grime away. Gravity is a suggestion I am choosing to ignore, while my sneakers stay planted on the wooden floor. Liquid velvet sliding through the open window frame. The neighborhood is sleeping and it feels so tame. I am tracing the patterns of a faded velvet rug, wrapped in the stillness of a heavy cotton hug. The friction of the world is grinding to a halt, dissolving every bitterness and every single fault. Just a slow combustion and a mental holiday, where the debts and the deadlines fill the universe away. Floating on the exhale, drifting through the door. I don't need the engine or the ladder anymore. The silence is a river and I am sinking in the deep, before the morning sun ruins every promise that I keep. Oh, the spark until the vision starts to blur. Everything I was is just a distant muffled purr. In the crawl space of the night, where the heavy air is sweet, I am finding every answer in the pulse beneath my feet. Let it settle in the marrow, let it stabilize the bone. I have called the quiet kingdom on a temporary throne. The midnight is a curtain and the embers are the light. Everything about us in the furnace of the night. The hum of the fridge is a holy kind of drone. I am counting every blessing that I finally own. There is a logic in the haze that the daylight cannot find. A panoramic garden growing inside of my mind. No more racing for the gold or the hollow tiny crown. Just a steady navigation of the spirit coming down to a place of perfect traction where the gears finally mesh, and the spirit feels communal in the middle of the flesh. Floating on the exhale, drifting through the door. I don't need the engine or the ladder anymore. The silence is a river line clinking in the deep, before the morning sun ruins every promise that I keep. Hold the spark until the vision starts to blur. Everything I was is just a distant muffled purr. In the car space of the night, where the heavy air is sweet, I am finding every answer in the pulse beneath my feet. Let it settle in the marrow, let it stabilize the bowl. I have carved a quiet kingdom on a temporary throne. The midnight is a curtain and the emperors are the light. Everything is balanced in the furnace of the night. Clock face goes at 12 precise. Heavy pressure melting like the ice. Found a sanctuary in the velvet fold, turning silver shadows into breathing gold. Floorboards soft beneath the drifting wave, leaving all the static at the garden gate. Found a portal in the road and paper seams, walking through the garden of the waking dreams. Low gravity taking hold of the room, watching how the garden starts to bloom in the bloom. Floating on a current where the time feels thick, caught inside the flicker of a Udan matchstick. Higher than the ceiling, lower than the deep. Promises to finish long before they sleep, babe. Exhale a cloud that mimics mountain mist, checking off the worries on a paper list. Then I burn the paper, let the ashes fall, tracing jagged patterns on the bedroom wall. Hush, now the city is a distant hum, waiting for the morning but it hasn't come. Eyes red like the embers in the ceramic bowl, finding peace of mind inside a perfect scroll.
Density shifting in the lungs tonight. Everything heavy, everything in light. Gravity losing its grip on the floor.
I don't need a key to open the door. Slow, low gravity taking hold of the room, watching how the garden starts to bloom in the gloom. Floating on a current where the calm feels thick, caught inside the flicker of a wood attached stick. Higher than the ceilings, lower than the deep. Promises to finish long before the sleep, babe. clock hangs closing at the heavy 0 hour. Floating through the static of her faded power. The window pane is sleeping with a silver mist, tracing every secret that the shadows kissed. I'm sinking in the cushions of a velvet throne, counting every fiber in this quiet zone. The embers in the trail winking back at me, locking up the doorway, swinging out the key. A phantom in the hallway hums a lazy tune, sailing on the crescent of a paper moon. Gravity is losing all the time grip, letting the momentum of the moment slip. The ceiling turns to liquid under heavy lids, hiding what the weary world already bids. I'm weaving through the fabric of the easy breath, far above the valley of the little death. The slow burn is steady in a hollow dark, stoking up the spirit with a tiny spark. The gears stop their grinding in the metal chest, giving all the ghosts a temporary rest. Exhale the heady weight into the cool and blue, filtering the world into a softer hue. The days is a blanket for the aching soul, making every fragment of the spirit whole. Floating on the drift of the sweet release, finding in the stillness a peculiar peace. The speakers are a fountain pouring gentle gold, spilling out the stories that were never told. The vinyl is a circle where the world revolves, watching how the tension of the day dissolves. I'm reading all the patterns in the plaster wall, waiting for the giants in the mind to fall. The cupboard is a treasure of the sugar grip, blessing every hollow where the cravings sit. The carpet is a meadow where my feet belong, tracing out the rhythm of a silent song. The city is a memory of a distant light, buried in the belly of the velvet night. Everything is simple when the air is thick, listening to the rhythm of the cosmic tick. The mirror is a window to a friendly face, lost inside the beauty of the empty space. The slow burn is steady in the hollow dawn, stoking up the spirit with a tiny spark. The gears stop their grinding in the dull chest, getting all the ghosts a temporary rest. Exhaling heavy weight into the cool and blue, filtering the world through a softer hue. The haze is a blanket for the aching soul, making every fragment of the spirit whole. Floating on the drift of a sweet release, finding in the stillness a peculiar peace. Exhale the heavy weight into the cool and blue, filtering the world through a softer hue. The haze is a blanket for the aching soul, making every fragment of the spirit whole. Floating on the drift of a sweet release, finding in the stillness a peculiar peace. Clock is bleeding shadows on the wall, a heavy violet haze begins to crawl. I'm sinking deeper through the velvet floor, while silence filters through the bolted door. The silver grinder spins a dusty well, the rush of living starts to flow and ebb. I keep my pulses slow and visions wide, with nowhere left for hollow ghosts to hide. Float across the ceiling in a dream of gray, watch the heavy hours simply melt away, breathing in the ghost of the dormant flame, forgetting every syllable of my name. Drifting where the gravity feels light, in the belly of the slow and hollow night. The wick is burning down to embassies, ignoring all the static and the needs. The atmosphere is thick enough to hold a story that can never be retold. The tension unspools like a tangled thread, leaving only quiet in my weary head. Street lights flicker like a dying spark, wrestling with the velvet and the dark. I'm tracing patterns with a steady hand across the borders of a shifting land. The resin sticks to every fleeting thought, between the lessons holding wisdom bar. My lungs are heavy with the sweet release, Just a temporary fragment of a piece.
The pressure eases out the aching bone. A king upon a worn and fabric throne. The smoke is curling like a climbing vine, blurring every hard and jagged line.
Floating across the ceiling in a dream of gray. Watch that every hour simply melt away. Breathing in the ghost of a dormant flame. Forgetting every syllable of my name. Drifting where the gravity feels like. In the belly of the slow and hollow night. Floating across the ceiling in a dream of gray. Watch the heavy hours simply melt away. Breathing in the ghost of a dormant flame. Forgetting every syllable of my name. Drifting where the gravity feels like. In the belly of the slow and hollow night. Clock hands tangle at the 0 hour. Heavy clouds leaning on the water tower. Blue smoke ribbons wrapping out the floor, leaving every heavy thought outside the door. Gravity is loosening its stubborn grip. Ice cubes melting on a slow, steady drip. The velvet silence starts to hum a tune, swimming through the shadows of a lonely moon. The radiator hisses like a tired ghost, tracing all the ghosts that I love the most. Ash falls soft on the hardwood grain. Listen to the rhythm of the city drain. Windows blurry from the slow exhale heat. Watching yellow taxis on a hollow street. Time is just a circle scratched in the wax, giving every muscle permission to relax. The weight drifting off into the gray. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on a frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear. The weight drifting off into the gray. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear. The weight drifting off into the gray. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear. The weight drifting off into the gray. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear.
Yo, cobalt curtains swinging in the midnight draft, sinking in a shallow wooden river craft, exhaling every doubt into the thick dark air, running tired fingers through a messy snare. The baseline wanders like a midnight stray, looking for a reason not to face the day. Silver paper crinkled on the nightstand edge, leaning out the window on the cooling ledge. The sky is turning to a faded violet wash, burning down the minutes that the hours squash. Nothing really matters when the air turns cold. Stories in the embers waiting to be told. Breathing out the tension like a broken spring, hearing how the copper telephone wires sing. Lost inside the vapor of a slow blue haze, finding many exits in a velvet maze. The weight is lifting off into the grave. Wait for the sun to wash the light away. Flowing on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear. The weight is drifting off into the grave. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear. The weight is drifting off into the grave. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear. The weight is drifting off into the grave. Wait for the sun to wash the night away. Floating on the frequency only I can hear. Watching all the static slowly disappear.
Clock face froze on a ghost of a smile. 12:30 and the room stretches a mile. Leaning back where the shadow meets the velvet. Found a heavy truth and I never even felt it. The indigo curtain filters the street lamp glow. Watching the seconds melt into river down below. Just a flicker of flint and a long slow breath. Posing riddles to the silent, playing games with death. Got a guitar string, I'm in a low blue note. tangled in the smoke rising from an old trench coat. The floorboards are humming a deep gravelly tune, carving out a corner on the far side of the moon. My pockets hold secrets and some silver foil dreams. Nothing on this attic is quite as solid as it seems. I'm a weary pilgrim on a tattered leather chair, tracing intricate patterns in the cooling summer air. Let the heavy smoke settle like a blanket on the mind, leaving every jagged edge and every ticking fear behind. It's a long way down to the bottom of the glass, watching all the heavy-hearted midnight hours pass, floating through the indigo under a paper sky, where the answers only linger in the corner of the eye. Just a slow, heavy drift while the city falls asleep, diving in the waters where the blue is dark and deep. The neighborhood is sleeping under sheets of gray, but I'm counting all the colors that escape the day, like a faded photograph of a jasmine's tired grin, letting all the quiet of the universe sink in. The radiator hisses like a snake in the dark, searching for the fire, but I'm settled with the spark. I don't need a compass or a map for the soul, just a steady magnetism of this emerald bow. There's a saxophone waiting 3 streets away, crying for the sunshine that got lost along the way. I'm not into the cadence of a heartbeat slow, traveling the curves of an unpaved road. No more heavy lifting for the rest of the night, just the soft golden haze of a dim electric light. I've abandoned the race and the noise and the grit for the peace of the stillness and the weight of the hit. The stars are just pinpricks in a worn out coat, riding a melody that I never quite wrote, suspended in the amber of a moment standing still, waiting for the gravity to climb up the hill. Let the heavy smoke settle like a blanket on the mind, leaving every jagged edge and every ticking fear behind. It's a long way down to the bottom of the glass, watching all the heavy-hearted midnight hours pass, floating through the indigo under a paper sky, where the answers only linger in the candor of the eye. Just a slow, heavy drift while the city falls asleep, diving in the waters where the blue is dark and deep. Black face bleeds into a circle of ghosts, counting shadows lean against the doorpost. The radiator hums a low frequency hymn while the street lamp outside starts to look dim. I pull the heavy velvet air into my chest, the only passenger awake on this evening quest. The silver tray holds the remnant to the grind, the slow motion spark to unspool the mind. No ticking gears, just a steady drift, watching the ceiling tiles start to shift. Gravity is a suggestion I choose to ignore, tracing the patterns etched into the floor. Weighted clouds hanging beneath the crown, floating through the balance of this ghost town. The exhale travels in a slow white snake, finding the spaces that the daylight breaks. Higher than the birds sleep beneath me ears, turning over golden autumn tinted leaves. Heavy eyes watching the universe spin, where the sky ends and the lungs begin. The quiet is a blanket stitched with velvet thread, neutralizing every single word that was said. Not the booze, but the amber glowing tip. Take another slow and measured sip. The mountains in my mind are turning into sand. I hold the entire horizon in the palm of my hand. The neighbors are dreaming of white picket fences, but I am dizzy, sharpening my sixth senses. The paper burns down to a miniature stain, listening to the song that personas can't sing. Metaphysics wrapped in a thin hymn sheet, elevation gained without leaving the sea. The moon is a coin tossed in a deep well, lost in the stories that the shadows tell. No pressure on the curve, just a hollow grace, moving through the curves of outer space. Every thought is a bubble that refuses to pop, gliding down a slide that will never quite stop. Weighted clouds hanging beneath the crown, floating through the silence of this ghost town. The exhale travels in a slow white snake, finding the spaces that the daylight breaks. Higher than the birds sleeping in me eaves, turning over golden autumn tinted leaves. Heavy eyes watching the universe spin, where the sky ends and the lungs begin. Yeah. The clock strikes 12 and the ceiling starts to fade. Heavy eyelids watching how the silver smoke is played. Gravity is losing grip upon this leather chair. Liquid velvet floating through the thick and midnight air. I found a frequency between the ticks and the talks, unlocking puzzles without touching any locks. The city is a quiet ghost outside my window frame, while I forget the letters that once spelled my name. Everything is stretching like a slow motion scene, swimming through a river made of amethyst and green. High above the pavement where the worries used to grow, let the heavy pressure of the daylight finally go. Breathe it out until the room begins to bloom, chasing shadows drifting in the corner of the room. Elevated layers where the oxygen is sweet, feeling every pulse from my head down to my feet. Hold the moment steady till the vision is clear, losing every fragment of a doubt or a fear. Midnight is the kingdom and the herb is the key, floating in the center of a calm purple sea. Pockets full of embers and a mind full of clouds, hidden from the motion and the static of the crowd. My heart is a drum beating slow inside the chest, finally finding places where the weary thoughts can rest. The incense is dancing like a serpent on the breeze. I am catching whispers from the rustle of the trees. No more chasing shadows in a race I cannot win. This is where the magic and the stillness begin. Oh, everything is stretching like a slow motion scene, swimming through a river made of amethyst and green. High above the pavement where the worries used to grow, let the heavy pressure of the daylight finally go. Oh, breathe it out until the room begins to bloom, chasing shadows drifting in the corner of the room. Elevated layers where the oxygen is sweet, feeling every pulse from my head down to my feet. Hold the moment steady till the vision is clear, losing every fragment of a doubt or a fear. Midnight is a kingdom and the earth is the key, floating in the center of a calm purple sea. Breathe it out until the room begins to bloom, chasing shadows drifting in the corner of the room. Elevated layers where the oxygen is sweet, feeling every pulse from my head down to my feet. Hold the moment steady till the vision is clear, losing every fragment of a doubt or a fear. Midnight is a kingdom and the herb is the key, floating in the center of a calm purple sea. The clock face bleeds into a single silver line. Every curtain swallowed every trace of design. Ashtrays holding ghost stories from an hour ago. Watching the ceiling fan spin its heavy solo. My lungs feel like ancient velvet in the dark, searching for a fire without a single spark. The floorboards hum along to a baseline low, tracing the secrets that the floorboards know. Gravity is acting like a long lost friend, pulling at the edges where the shadows bend. The air gets thick enough to sit upon, waiting for the first great breath of dawn. Everything is slowing to a honey pace, disappearing completely into empty space. Exhale the midnight blue and let it rise. Cloudy mountains behind these bloodshot eyes, floating on the current made of smoke and stone. Better off for drifting, better off alone. The weight of the world is a feather tonight, walking on the ceiling in the dim pale light. like a stretching through a dusty groove. Too much weight on my shoulders to even move. The street lights outside are just golden blood stains, numbing out the static in my weary veins. Thoughts coming in like slow rolling waves, digging up the silence from the quiet graves. I am just a passenger on a velvet ride, watching the logic go out with the tide. The walls are expanding by a foot or two, drowning in a shade of deep electric blue. The air gets thick enough to sit up on, waiting for the first great breath of dawn. Everything is slowing to a honey pace, disappearing completely into empty space. Exhale the midnight blue and let it rise. Cloudy maps behind these bloodshot eyes, floating on a comet made of speck and stone. Better off adrift and better off alone. The weight of the world is a feather tonight, walking on the ceiling in the dim pale light. Exhale the midnight blue and let it rise. Cloudy maps behind these bloodshot eyes, floating on a comet made of smoke and stone. Better off adrift and better off alone. The weight of the world is a satellite, walking on the ceiling in the dim pale light. Exhale the midnight blue and let it rise. Cloudy maps behind these bloodshot eyes, floating on a current made of smoke and stone. Better off adrift and better off alone. The weight of the world is a feather tonight, walking on the ceiling in the dim pale light. The clock face froze at 12 while the incense burns thin, tracing gray ribbons through the thick hair on my skin. Heavy eyelids drooping like the willow near the lake, trading every silent thought for a dream I used to fade. Paper thin rolls between my fingertips and fate, watching mercury bubbles dancing on a silver plate. Quiet in the hall, shadows stretching past the door, finding diamonds in the dust, mold settled on the floor. The gravity is shifted and my sneakers weigh a ton. I am finishing the races that I never even run, counting backward from 1,000 till the digits fall away. Safe inside this velvet pocket, far from early light of day. Slow motion drifting in the purple tinted haze, finding giant exits in the middle of the maze. The world is getting smaller as the ceiling swings wide, floating on the current of the rolling green tide. Caught between the breathing and the silence of the room, watching how the embers make the midnight fully bloom. Street lamps glowing orange through the foggy window pane, soft electric come and wash away the mental strain. I am digging through the crates of a dusty memory, unlocking every padlock without searching for a key. The asphalt is a river and the stars are golden sand, holding on to nothing with a very steady hand. Coughing out the ghosts of the worries from the week, feeling every syllable before I even speak. Melting like a candle in the corner of the dark, searching for the fire but I only count the spark. Time is just a matter that is leaning on the moon. I'll be coming down to earth, but it won't be anytime soon. Slow motion drifting in with purple tinted haze, finding giant exits in the middle of the maze. The world is getting smaller as the ceiling swings wide, floating on the current of the rolling green tide. Caught between the breathing and the silence of the room, watching how the embers make the midnight fully bloom. Clock is bleeding shadows on a hardwood floor, static coming low beneath the heavy door. I'm tracing silver circles in a velvet room while the city sinks into a copper gloom. The flint sparks a vision in the quiet heat, heavy list of sin as the day retreats. counting every breath like a slow count of gold. Stories in the ashes left to be retold. The ceiling starts to ripple like a restless tide. No one left for the anxious bones to hide. Gravity is pulling like a weary friend, waiting for the tangled lines of thought to bend. Floating through the haze of a midnight side, indigo horizons in a clouded eye. Slow motion drifting on a liquid track, leaving all the hollow weight behind my back. Blue smoke ripples through the silent dark, waiting for the embers to find their spark. Miles of concrete fade into a dull gray blur. Memories are softened like a thick coat of fur. No more sharp edges in the midnight glow, just a steady rhythm of the undertow. The radio is weeping with a slide guitar, reaching for the ghost of a distant star. 42 reasons to let the spirit fly beneath the heavy velvet of a nameless slide. The sea starts to ripple like a restless tide. No one left for the anxious bones to hide. Gravity is pulling like a weary friend, waiting for the tangled lines of thought to bend. Floating through the haze of a midnight side, indigo horizons in a clouded eye. Soul motion drifting on a liquid track, leaving all the hollow weight behind my back. The blue smoke ripples try to silent dark, waiting for the embers to find their spark. Time is a solvent dissolving the plot. The key has surrendered to the rusted lie. Deep in the marrow where the blues reside, the truth is just a passenger on this ride. Ascending the ladder of a fragrant mist, finding all the moments that the daylight missed. Floating through the haze of a midnight side, indigo horizons in a clouded eye. Slow motion drifting on a liquid track, leaving all the hollow weight behind my back. The blue smoke ripples through the silent dark, waiting for the ember to find their spark. Floating through the haze of a midnight side, indigo horizons in a clouded eye. Slow motion drifting on a liquid track, leaving all the hollow weight behind my back. The blue smoke ripples through the silent dark, waiting for the embers to find their spark. Clock hangs heavy at the peak of the dark, while the embers find a home in a folding spark. Shadows stretch on against the peeling white paint, and the silence feels thick like the sinner turned saint. The city outside is a ghost on the prowl, but in here the slow smoke begins its soft growl. Moving like mercury through the hollows of breath, a gentle small truce with the concept of death.
Float on a cloud that has nowhere to land, holding the weight of the world in a hand. The tick of the second is a mile wide and deep, while the rest of the weary are buried in sleep.
Higher than memories, lower than pain, drifting away on a light purple rain.
Float on a cloud that has nowhere to land, holding the weight of the world in her hand. The tick of the second is a mile wide and deep, while the rest of the weary are buried in sleep.
Philosophy blooms in the heat of red glow. Questions roll out in the thick rhythmic flow. Why does the brevity pull
On the mind,
when the rest of the senses are
leaving behind.
the struggle for silver, the hunger for gold, Values are shifting as the papers unfold. The ceiling is turning to a velvet blue sea. And for a short moment, the spirit is free.
Float on a cloud that has nowhere to land, holding the weight of the world in a hand. The tick of the second is a mile wide and deep. All the rest of the weary are buried in slow. Float on a cloud that has nowhere to land, holding the weight of the world in a hand. The tick of the second is a mile wide and deep. All the rest of the weary are buried in sleep. For every dawn, load of the world in our hand.
Clock face flickers, white against the dim shadow. The day is a heavy coat dropped on the floor. Somewhere a dog barks at a ghost in the alley, and the lock clit shut behind the heavy door. I am breathing out the ghost of every hour, watching the smoke curl like an ancient vine. The radiator hums a tired, dusty prayer while the stars shift away in a crooked line. The air is thick with the scent of silver mountains, a hazy veil pulled tight across the eyes. Ground in the hills where the carpet meets the pine. Listen to the slow heartbeat of the night. Everything that was sharp has lost its edge, tracing the spiral of a slow rolling thought, weightless in the cradle of the midnight air. The calendar is just a stack of drying leaves, and the telephone is sleeping in its cradle. The walls are peeling back the pale gray skin to reveal the haunted truth beneath the table. I've got 1,000 miles and nowhere left to travel, and a pocket full of dandelion seeds. Watching the ceiling fan spin its lazy halo, planting the harvest of my quiet needs. Everything that was sharp has lost its edge, tracing the spiral of a slow rolling thought, weightless in the cradle of the midnight air. A moon is a coin tossed into a black well. The traffic outside is a river made of glass. I'm standing still while the spinning world slows, waiting for the heavy clouds of lead to pass. There is no clock for the way the mind wanders, no map for the valley where the green smoke grows. The tea turns cold in the ceramic cup, the embers fade into a softer shade of gray. I am sinking deep into velvet fabric, drifting far from the jagged teeth of death. Everything that was sharp has lost its edge, tracing the spiral of a slow rolling thought, weightless in the cradle of the midnight air. Sharp has lost its edge, tracing the spiral of a slow rolling thought, weightless in the cradle of the midnight air. The clock face bleeds into a single silver needle, stretching out the heavy air until it turns to lace. I am watching the shadows play a game of chess against the window where the moon forgot its face. The lighter flicks a spark like a dying star in a jar, taming the dragon that breathes out a velvet cloud. The room is tilting toward a quiet kind of peace, where the silence is the only thing allowed to be loud. Slow motion gravity pulling on my weary bones, floating through the valleys of these low frequency tones. The midnight exhale is a bridge to somewhere vast, where the future is a ghost and the present is the last. Drifting on the smoke rings of a daydream held too tight, losing track of heavy hands in the middle of the night. There's a map drawn in the resin on the table, leading back to places that I never truly left. I am counting the heartbeats of the ticking house, feeling like a phantom who has committed a gentle theft. The walls are softening into sheets of soap paper, folding inward as the ceiling starts to hum a tune. I am sitting in the tall grass of a wandering thought, waiting for the sun to find me in the middle of June. The embers are glowing like a city scene from a plane, washing away the sharp edges of the pouring rain. Everything is blurred into a watercolor haze, finding a way out of the complexity of the maze. So won't let gravity pulling on my weary arms, floating through the valleys of these low frequency tones. The midnight exhale is a bridge to somewhere fast, where the future is a ghost and the present is the last. Drifting on the smoke rings of the daydream held too tight, losing track of heavy hands in the middle of the night. Clock strikes 12 and the walls begin to bend. Asphalt soft like a secret to a friend. Small ghosts of smoke that surround the heavy air. I find a kingdom in this old velvet chair. The window frame holds a slice of silver light, tracing the edges of a slow and hollow night. Everything that mattered just drifted out the door. I don't need the gravity holding me no more. The ceiling is a sea and I'm floating on the tide, with nowhere left to run and nowhere left to hide. Breathe it in until the world turns blue, watching every shadow change its hue. Slow motion thoughts in a hazy lavender maze, losing all the hours in a sweet and steady flame. Just a midnight exhale, let the heavy lifting stop, while the stars start to shimmer and the lonely tempers drop. Matches thicker than the embers start to glow, setting up a pace that the morning won't know. The static on the radio is humming out of tune, carrying my spirit to the hollow of the moon. My heart beats quiet like a drum under the floor. I've forgotten what I ever was complaining for. Everything that mattered just drifted out the door. I don't need the gravity holding me no more. The ceiling is a sea and I'm floating on the tide, with nowhere left to run and nowhere left to hide. Breathe it in until the world turns blue, watching every shadow change its hue. Slow motion thoughts in a hazy lavender maze, losing all the hours in a sweet and steady place. Just a midnight exhale, let the heavy lifting stop, while the stars start to shimmer and the lonely tempers drop.
Clock face froze on a vertical line, suspended in a heavy velvet space.
I pull the oxygen through a glass spine, watching the ghost drift from my face. The room is tilting on a slow rotation. Gravity is just a suggestion now, searching for a silent frequency station while the heavy stars make a load out. The city outside is a muted parade, but I am tucked in this cottonwood haze, counting the debts that I never paid in the emerald light of a wandering daze. My eyes are heavy as two gold coins, resting on the lids of the weary day. A secret numbness flows where the bone joins as the sharp edges of the world fray. Exhale the midnight into the hungry dark, let the smoke bright as hang on the ceiling. I am a spark, chasing another spark, searching for the root of this kinetic feeling. The hours are melted like a wax crown, everything is soft and nothing is loud. I am pulling the heavy curtain down, lost inside a private silver cloud. Patterns moving on the back of my mind, like liquid ink dropped in a clear well, leaving the frantic pulse of life behind, breaking the ringing of the iron bell. There is a logic in the drifting ash, a geometry built out of thin gray lace. No more lightning and no more crash, just a steady drift of inner space. Exhale the midnight into the hungry dark, let the smoke rise as aim on the ceiling. I am a spark, chasing another spark, searching for the root of this kinetic feeling. The hours are melting like a wax crown, everything is soft and nothing is loud. I am pulling the heavy curtain down, lost inside a private silver cloud.
Clock is bleeding shadows on the hardwood floor, while a heavy smoke is knocking at my chamber door. Gravity is just a theory that I used to trust. Now I'm drifting through the nebula and stardust. Static on the radio sounds like a velvet choir, burning down the bridge to light a tiny fire. Green leaves curling in the belly of the glass, watching every second turn into a blade of grass. Got a pocket full of silver and a head of gold, stories that the preachers never would have told. The moon is just a penny tossed into the black, and once you cross the border there is no coming back. My lungs are holding secrets that the wind forgot, tied my heavy worries in a double knot, floating like a ghost above the empty street, where the asphalt and the indigo finally meet.
The exhale is a bridge across the deep blue sea, unlocking every cage inside of me. Sweet hazy medicine for a weary mind, leaving all the jagged edges far behind. Slow down the motion of the spinning globe, wrapped in the comfort of a charcoal road. Indigo clouds dancing in a quiet room, chasing away the winter and the gloom. Let the melody seep into your very soul, losing every bit of your self-control. High above the valley where the spirits play, waiting for the dawn to wash the night away.
The blues are just a shadow looking for a light, a slow burning candle in the middle of the night. Low frequency thumping through the hollow wall, listening to the raindrops as they start to fall. Nothing's really moving but the clock on a shelf. I'm finally getting introduced to myself. No more hiding in the thickets of the day, let the sweet aromatic vapor lead the way. I saw a lonely angel at the corner store, asking what the people were all fighting for.
I gave him a spark and a piece of my mind, the kind of jagged wisdom that is hard to find. We sat on the curb while the planets slipped by, tracing dirty patterns in the midnight sky. Life is just a shuffle on a broken deck, all the wreath of jasmine hanging around your neck.
Exhale is a bridge across a deep blue sea, unlocking every cage inside of me. Sweet hazy medicine for a weary mind, leaving all the jagged edges thought behind.
Slow down the motion of the spinning globe, wrapped in the comfort of a charcoal hole. Indigo cloud dancing in a quiet room, chasing away the winter and the gloom. Let the melody seep into your very soul, losing every bit of your self-control. High above the valley where the spirits play, waiting for the dawn to wash the night away.